Hello students, welcome to the new session of 2021-22 and congratulations for all of you as you have crossed your class 9th and you have been passed your class 9 exams and now you are in class 10th. I am Ishant Kumar, your chemistry teacher. I will be taking your chemistry, and in this class I am going to revise you with some of the important topics of your class 9th, which will be helping you in the class 10th also. So let's start. Let's start our class. In today's class, I am going to discuss about atoms. So if I am taking an example here, so I am taking an example of a wall. As everybody here knows that what is a wall? A wall is generally made by using small bricks. Okay, we use small bricks to make a wall. So I am taking an example of a, so let's say it is a wall, and in this we are using bricks. So as you can see here, if I am coloring this brick, this single brick with yellow color here, then I can say that this is the unit of this wall. Okay, it means that this single brick, it is a brick. So I am repeating this brick again and again, means at upside, at downside, at left. Okay, regularly I am adding one more brick and I am constructing this wall. So what is an atom? So the atom can be defined by using this same phenomena here, where I am using a brick and repeating it to form a wall. So like that only, if I want to define atoms, then I can define it like this. The smallest unit of a substance, the smallest unit of a substance that is repeated again and again to form that substance is called an atom. Okay, so what is an atom? An atom is the smallest unit. Okay, it is the smallest unit of a substance that is repeated again and again, means we have to join them with each other again and again in order to form that substance. Okay, so that will be known as a atom. Now the question arises here, what is a substance then? Okay, the question arises here, what is a substance then? So as we know that all the things which are present near to us, okay, that is known as matter. So let's define matter. Matter, what is matter? The substance present around us which can occupy any space. In other words, we can say that it has volume and has mass is called is called as matter. Okay, so anything around us which can occupy space, or in other words, we can say that it has volume. Okay, it has volume and has mass, is known as matter. So from very lower classes, we are knowing that there are three states of matter. Okay, there are three states of matter. What are these three states? The first one is solid, the second one is liquids, and the third one is the gases. Okay, so three states are there: one solid, liquid, and gas. But recently, one more state of matter has been added, that is plasma. Okay, what is this plasma? The plasma are nothing other than gases in ionized form. Okay, gases in ionized form. Gases in ionized form. Has anybody seen electric welding? If you have seen the electric welding, then the spark which generates there, okay, or the spark which generates due to electric current around you, anywhere you have seen, if you have seen any spark related to electric current, then it is plasma. Here the gases, when it is in contact with electric current, then they are formed or they are ionized. Ionized means, in the last class, as you know, that ions, you have studied about ions. So what are the ions? When any species or any substance generates charges, okay, when they generate charges which were positive or either negative, then they are known as ions. So there were two types of ion, one was cation and one was anion. Okay, cation and anion. So these two, cation and anion, when these are formed in gases due to electric current, then that state of matter is known as plasma. One more state of matter is also being considered, which is Bose-Einstein particle. Bose-Einstein particle. Okay, it is also been considered as a fifth state of matter nowadays. But in general case, when we are considering, then it is three states of matter, which is solid, liquid, and gases. Okay, solid, liquid, and gases. The three states of matter are. Let's move further here. As we have discussed about matter, then matter is substance only. Okay, so two types of, if I am considering that matter is the substance which is present around us, and this matter is only formed out by atoms. So this matter can be distinguished in two different forms. Okay, this matter can be distinguished in two different forms. What are the two forms? Let's see. The first is the pure substances, and the second one is the impure substances. In the last class, you have studied about pure substances and impure substances. Now, what is a pure substance and what is an impure substance? So, the pure substance. Further, the pure substance can be divided into two parts. One is element and another one is compounds. Elements, okay, and compounds. Similarly, impure substance can be divided into mixture, and this mixture can be divided into further into two parts. That is, one is homogeneous mixture and one is heterogeneous mixture. So let's first deal with mixtures, then we will deal with the elements and compounds. So, mixture. What is a mixture? When two or more substances are taken together or in other words mixed together in any proportion, okay, in any proportion, not a definite proportion is there, in any proportion. If I am mixing two or more substances, then it is a mixture. Okay, it is a mixture. For example, water plus sugar. Okay, water plus sugar, if I am taking, then it is a mixture, it is not compound. Similarly, when we are mixing coal with sand, okay, and etc., mud with water, many more examples are there, so you can take any one. Okay, so mixture is nothing other than when two or more substances are mixed together in any ratio, in any proportion, then they are considered as mixture. Two types of mixtures are there. One is homogeneous mixture. So students, I am telling you that homo, this particular word homo means alike. Okay, alike, it means alike. Alike means you cannot distinguish the components of that particular mixture. Okay, so homogeneous mixture are the mixture whose component substances cannot be easily distinguished is called as homogeneous mixture. Okay, so its best example is water plus sugar when we mix water with sugar, then after stirring the water, we found that the sugar is dissolved in water, and it is very hard to distinguish that the water which is containing sugar or the water which is not containing sugar by our naked eye, because the particles of sugars are not distinctly visible in that particular solution, okay, or in that particular mixture. Similarly, water plus salt, when we dissolve salt in water, that also is a type of homogeneous mixture, because there it is very hard to distinguish both of them, okay. Similarly, if you are mixing salt and baking powder also, nowadays salt and baking powder both look alike, and if you mix both of them, then it will be very hard to distinguish these both substances with each other, okay. So it is also an example of your homogeneous mixture. Next, moving further, next is the heterogeneous mixture. Heterogeneous mixture, okay. So hetero means different, okay. Hetero means different or distinct. You can easily distinguish the components of this type of mixture, okay. So the definition becomes here: the mixture whose components are easily distinguishable with naked eyes is called as heterogeneous mixture, okay. Means with our naked eyes only, means with our simple eyes only, if I am able to distinguish the component of a mixture, then it is known as a heterogeneous mixture. For example, when we mix water and mud, then it is easily distinguishable that water is being mixed with mud there. Similarly, when coal and salt is mixed with each other, then by the color only we can easily distinguish between them, okay. That coal is black in color and salt is white in color. So it is also a type of heterogeneous mixture. Next next is the elements, okay. Let's move towards the pure substances. We have studied about the impure substances in which mixture was there, okay. Let's move to pure substances. I am not discussing about the solutions, true solutions and all that thing, because you have studied that things in your class 9th. So let's move further and discuss about pure substances, okay. So a pure substance, what is a pure substance? A pure substance is a substance that contains all the atoms or molecules or ions or species same throughout is termed as pure substance, okay. So a substance that contains all the atoms, molecules or species, okay, molecules or atoms or the species are same throughout that substance, then it is termed as pure substance, okay. Now, how many types of pure substances are there? So there are two types of pure substances. One is element, one is element. What is element? The substance that contains only a single atom, then it is called an element. For example, if I am considering oxygen gas, if I am considering oxygen gas, then oxygen gas is made up of the element oxygen only. Okay, means all the atoms present in this particular oxygen gas will be of oxygen atom, which is having the atomic number of 8 and atomic mass of 16 units. Okay, as you have studied this in last year, so you know that oxygen gas is a element which is containing an oxygen atom. All the atoms present in this particular oxygen gas will be oxygen atoms, which whose atomic number is 8 and atomic mass is 16 units. So hence this oxygen gas can be termed as an element. Similarly, many more elements are there: iron, copper, okay, iron, copper, nitrogen, chromium, etc. All these type of elements are used by you, knowingly or unknowingly. You are using this daily in your life, and they are present near you. So they, when they are present in their single state only, okay, when they are present in their single state only, then they are termed as elements. Okay, means if nitrogen gas, where all the atoms of nitrogens are only present, then it is termed as a element. Okay, next is the compound. Compound. What is a compound? When two or more elements combined with each other in a fixed proportion or a ratio, in a fixed proportion or ratio, or ratio, then it is termed as compound. The best example for a compound is the thing which you use when you feel thirsty, that is water, H2O. Its chemical formula is H2O. So here you can see that two atoms of hydrogen is combined with one oxygen atom in order to form water. Okay, in order to form water. Similarly, the another example is CO2, carbon dioxide. When you when you exhale out the gas which comes out from your body, it is carbon dioxide. Here, one atom of carbon is compounded or is combined with two oxygen atoms in order to form carbon dioxide. Okay, so the proper difference between a compound and a mixture is here, that in mixture, the when two or more substances were combined, there were no proper or fixed proportion was there. Okay, here as you can see, here two hydrogens are been combined with one oxygen. So here the proportion becomes 2 is to 1, or the ratio becomes 2 is to 1. Similarly, one carbon atom is being combined with two oxygen atoms. So the ratio here becomes 1 is to 2. Similarly, if I am taking one carbon atom and three oxygen atoms, then the formation will be for a carbonate. It will not be carbon dioxide. So hence the compound, if the ratio changes, here the ratio is 1 is to 3. As you can see here, one carbon atom is being combined with three oxygen atoms here. So therefore the ratio becomes 1 is to 3. And the compound is also changed out here. Now the compound becomes carbonate. While when one carbon was combined with two oxygen, then the compound was carbon dioxide. So hence, with different proportion, different compounds are formed out here. But in case of mixture, what was that? No fixed proportion was there. We were combining two or more substances randomly with each other in any random proportion. Okay. And when we are taking example of an element, here we have seen that only a single type of atom was present in the whole of the substance, then it was considered as a element. Okay, then it was considered as a element when a single type of atom was present. Okay, when a single type of atom was present. But as you can see here, two or more different types of atoms are present here, which are combined in a definite proportion or a fixed proportion here. So hence this is a proper difference between an element and a compound, and also the fixed proportion is also a difference between the mixture and a compound. Okay, now this was about the substance and the compounds and the elements. Let's move further. As I was talking about the elements, okay, sorry, I was talking about the atoms. So as I have given you the definition of atom. Now, the discovery of atom was made by many different scientists, and many different approaches were used in order to study the structure of an atom. Okay, so the first ever study which was made in the structure of atom was given by Dalton, John Dalton, and he has proposed a theory which is known as John Dalton's theory of atom. Okay, so the postulates are: the first, atom is the smallest part of any matter. Okay, I am not writing the postulates word to word as Dalton has given. I am just writing it to make you understand. Okay, atom is the smallest part of any matter. Second, each substance of same type contains same atoms, while different substance contains different atoms. Okay, same substance atoms will be identical identical in their shape, size, and properties. Means the atoms of same type of element, compounds, okay, all these things will be, or the same type of substances will be having the atoms of same kind only. Means their shape, size, and properties all will be same. But for different substances, for different substances, it will be different. Okay, it will be different. Atom is the smallest part that participates in an chemical reaction. Okay, and it has given, Dalton has also proposed the definition of compound also, that when two or more different atoms are combined together in a fixed ratio, then it is known as a compound. Okay, then after this, the next theory which was given was Thomson model of atom. Okay, J.J. Thomson, his name was J.J. Thomson. He has done an experiment, and according to that he has proposed a model of atom which was also known as plum pudding model. Okay, plum pudding model. In our Indian context, if I am going to understand it, so it will be easy to imagine it as a watermelon model. Okay, in our Indian context, it will be easy to consider a watermelon model. So what is a plum pudding model or Thomson model of atom? So he has said that if I am considering an atom as a sphere, spherical in shape, then there is matter filled in it, which is showing, I am showing it with red color. So you know that in watermelon, the whole of the watermelon is filled up with a red color matter. Okay, so that I am just making out here. Okay, so this is the red colored matter, and in this matter we know that black colored seeds are there. Okay, so this is your red colored matter, and in this black colored seeds are there. So the seeds does not have any definite proportion, sorry, any definite position in the watermelon. It can be situated at any part of the watermelon, you know that thing. Okay, everybody I know that has ate watermelon, and this is the summer season. This is the summer of this is the season for watermelon only. So you know that when we cut watermelon, we found that the seeds are present at any part of the watermelon. It is not a definite part there where the seeds will be present. As in apple, we know that the seeds are present at the center of that apple. Okay, in mango also we know that the big seed is present at the center part of that. But in watermelon we know that the seeds does not present at any specific position. It can be scattered out in any part of the watermelon. Okay, so this is the watermelon structure. And similarly, the Thomson has proposed that the seed's position is defining the position of the electron in the atom. Okay, electron which is conducting, which is having minus charge. And this red colored part is the positive part of the atom. Okay, it is the positive part of the atom, not proton, because at that time proton was not being discovered. So he has discussed that the red colored part is the positive part of the atom, which is been fully spreaded out in the atom. And in some position, in some of the position, electrons are been scattered out there, which is look like a watermelon. And this plum pudding, you know that na, pudding means cake like thing. Okay, dessert. So plum means you can consider plum as in general language it is aloo bukhara, but in our normal Indian context you can consider it as the halwa. Okay, the halwa of suji, semolina pudding. In English we called it as semolina pudding. So there in halwa we put dry fruits na. So the dry fruits, if I am taking in a particular in a jar, if I am taking that, let's consider a plate in which I am taking that semolina pudding. So here at some part we will found that dry fruits are present there. Okay, and the whole of the matter is been filled out here with the semolina pudding here. But some of the parts will be containing their dry fruits. So that is also a example for your plum pudding. So here that dry fruits are representing the electrons which is having negative charge, and all of the matter present there is the semolina pudding is representing the positive part. Okay, so as you know that when a positive and negative is been attached with each other, then they nullify each other and they destroy each other. So this model was filled out there due to this reason only. Okay, as it was not having any significance that this model will be uh, this model will be considerably long lasting there. Okay, so hence this theory of Thomson was been denied there. Okay, next moving to the next model of atom, which was proposed by Neil Bohr. Okay, Neil Bohr. But before the proposal of Neil Bohr's model, two main discoveries were made. Okay, one was made by Goldstein. Okay, one was made by Goldstein. Goldstein, and one was made by Chadwick. Okay, they have discovered electrons and protons. Okay, they have discovered, sorry, they have discovered electrons was discovered by Rutherford. Okay, electron was discovered by Rutherford. These three scientists has made very significant discoveries there. Sorry, they have discovered electrons, protons and neutrons. Due to this discovery only, Neil Bohr was able to find out the proper model of the atom. But before Neil Bohr's model, I want to discuss once the model of the Rutherford also. So what was the Rutherford's model? You have studied last year this thing. I am just reminding it, revising it. Rutherford's model. So what was Rutherford's model? The experiment by which Rutherford has discovered this model is known as gold leaf experiment. Okay, gold leaf experiment. What he has done, he has taken a gold leaf and bombarded it with different alpha particles. Okay, alpha particle. It has used. He has used alpha particles, and he has seen what kind of behavior the alpha particle is showing after passing through that gold leaf. And according to it only, he has given this model. So, what was the model of Rutherford? So, the Rutherford's model was that he has said that the center of the center of the atom is having positive charge, and if I am considering atom is spherical in shape, then the center part of the atom is having the positive charge, and the negative charge the negative charge are rotating around this positive charge in a fixed orbit. Okay, like just like that of the planets which are revolving around the sun. Okay, like this, the electrons are revolving around this center positive charge. So this center part was named as nucleus, and these are the electrons. At this time, the neutrons were not discovered. Okay, so he has said that only positive charge is present at the center, like the sun only. Okay, as we know that the sun is present at the center of the solar system, and all the planets are revolving around it. Okay, so this model is known as planetary model. Okay, planetary model of atom. Planetary model of atom. Now let's move to the Niels Bohr's model. Okay, sorry. One more thing I want to add here. Why this model has been filled out? As Rutherford has told that the electrons are moving in a fixed path here. The path of the orbital path of the electrons is fixed here. So here what will happen? As we know that you have everybody has used or played with top bhavra. Okay, so you know that after some time when we rolled out a bhavra or a top, after some time it uses all its energy into revolving, and after some time it stops to revolve and falls out. Okay, so like that only, after some time these electrons will lose their energy and slowly they will fall out into the positive charge nucleus. So hence this model was also not significant, or it was not answering all the questions by the other scientists there. So hence this model was also failed out there. Next, the Niels Bohr model. So what is the Niels Bohr model? So Niels Bohr has said that, or he has given the model that the center part is really represented by the positive charge only. But with positive charge there, neutrons are also present, and all the negative charge electrons are present in fixed energy levels. Okay, in fixed energy levels, which are also called as shells or orbitals. The energy of the shell or orbital does not changes with time. He has also added one thing, that the energy of this orbital does not changes with time. Okay, so here he has proposed this model, and this model is also a planetary model only, but here he has given a thing that the electrons are moving around the are revolving around the nucleus. Okay, this is the nucleus, which is positive in charge, nucleus positive in charge, and these are the electrons, these are the electrons. Okay, these are the electrons which are negative in charge. So these electrons are revolving around this nucleus, but it is in fixed path, or it is in fixed orbits, or in fixed energy levels, and this energy level does not changes with time, and hence this model was very much stable as comparison to the models which were proposed before the Neil Bohr's model. Okay, for this model he has given one thing which is known as Bohr-Bury scheme. Bohr-Bury scheme. What is this Bohr-Bury scheme? This Bohr-Bury scheme tells about that, as I have told you, that different shells are there. So each shell was given name: K shell, L shell, M shell, like this. Okay. So K shell was the first shell, which was nearest shell to the nucleus. Then L shell, which was the second shell, which was the second nearest to the nucleus. M was the third. Like this, we can increase the number of shells here, or the increase the number of the energy levels here. Okay. So how many electrons to present in which shell? How to calculate that thing? It was proposed by this Bohr-Bury scheme. Here he has given a formula. The formula was 2n square, where n is the number of the shells. Okay, where n is the number of the shells, which can be 1, 2, 3, 4, and up till infinity you can go out. So according to this formula, if I am considering for k, whose number whose n is 1, so then the number of electrons will be, the maximum number of electrons which can be accommodated here, it will be 2 into 1 square, which is equals to 2. Okay, so hence in K shell only 2 electrons can be accommodated, maximum 2 electrons can be accommodated. L shell, for K L shell, the number of electrons can be 2 into 2 square, so it will be 8. For M, number of electrons can be 2 into 3 square, which will be 18. Like this, next will be 32, then 50. Okay, so hence we can calculate the number of electrons present in each shell by this formula, which is 2 into n square. Okay, now this representation of the electrons in an atom. Okay, the representation of electrons present in different shells or energy levels of an atom is called electronic configuration. Electronic configuration. Okay, it is called as electronic configuration. So if I am taking an example for any element, let's say it is oxygen. Okay, oxygen. So in the last year you have studied about oxygen. The atomic number of oxygen was 8. So for 8, the electronic configuration will be found out here. The electronic configuration can be written here like this. In the first shell, how many electrons can be accommodated? Maximum 2 electrons can be accommodated. So 2. After 2, if I am reducing 2 from this 8 electrons, then how many? Sorry, one more thing I want to take you here, that the number of the atomic number is nothing other than the number of protons for an atom. Okay, it is the number of protons for an atom. So you know that for stabilizing anything, the charges must be equal there. It means that if 10 positive charges are there, then 10 number of negative charges must be there in order to stabilize that particular thing. So similarly, if 8 protons are present there, then 8 electrons must also be present there. So hence, the number of electrons where also here it will be also 8 here. Okay, so if 8 electrons are present in oxygen, then if I am reducing 2 from it, then how many electrons are left out there? 6. But as we have seen here that in the second energy level, how many electrons can be accommodated? Maximum 8 electrons can be accommodated, and we are left out only with 6. So hence the electronic configuration of oxygen will become 2 comma 6. Like this only if I am writing it for chlorine, capital C small l. The electronic configuration, the atomic number is 17. So the electronic configuration for chlorine can be found out 2, 15, 8. Then after removing 8, how much will be left out here? 7. So in the last one, we know that 7 electrons can be easily accommodated. Now, why I am putting 7 here only? Why I am not taking more than 7 here? Because the one reason is that no more electrons are present here. But in case here, if 20 electrons are also present here, then also I will not take 17 more than 7 here. What is the reason behind it? The reason behind it is that octet rule. What is the octet rule? The octet rule says that the outermost shell of an atom must contain only 8 electrons. Okay, the outermost shell of an atom must contain 8 electrons. Means what, whichever may be the outermost shell, okay, whichever may be the outermost shell, it must contain only 8 electrons. If 18 electrons, it is third shell also, but the maximum number of electrons must be there 8 only, because that is the outermost shell. 18 electrons cannot be accommodated in that particular shell because it is the outermost shell. Okay, but in case of hydrogen and helium only, this rule is breaked out, because the outermost shell of these two atoms can take only 2 electrons. Okay, so this octet rule is not followed by hydrogen and helium, but all other elements follows this rule. Okay, so I am closing this session, this class here only, after taking the electronic configuration part. So please student, try to remember the elements till 30 if possible. Okay, because in class 10th, it is very necessary to remember the elements up till 30. It will be very useful for you, and it will help you for the further chapters of this class 10th. In the second class also, I would like to discuss with you some of the more major points related to the atoms and all this thing. So thank you for your watching this video.